welcome to my channel. Well, here it is, my 3040 Chinese CNC machine. I've had this machine for about 5 or 6 years, and in that time the stepper motors and electronics all failed. I've taken a series of photographs, and so you can see the process I've taken. So let's have a look. This photo, you can see the Z-axis limit switch there, as well as one side of the X-axis, and all I've done is use some 2mm aluminium, and I've just made a little plate and attached the micro switches to that on various places where I thought would be easy to mount and that they would work pretty well. And in this case was up the top here for the Z, and at the back there with one mounted each side. This next photo shows the Y-axis. You can see that there's a limit switch there under the cross plate, and this photo is shown with the table taken off. So we've got the cross plate there and the two limit switches, one on this side, one on the other side for the Y-axis is mounted there. Pretty straightforward. This is something that I just decided to do because I didn't want to have long cables hanging all over the place. I thought it just made the machine easier to carry around. I've routed all the limit switches, all the wires from the motors and from the spindle through here into this box, and then put microphone plugs on there, and then they go out so I can plug cables in, and then those cables can be plugged into the controller, which you'll see shortly. I've also got a place to plug in a Z height sensor there as well, and that just makes everything a little bit more tidy, I think. The next photo here is showing again with the table taken off. You can see the wires in the top there on the Y-axis. Where this cable chain is at the back of the gantry, that is actually, I've taken that and turned it upside down. That's just a mild steel plate. I've eventually got to change that with something that looks a bit better, but it does the job for now anyway, and still works okay. As I said, I had to change the stepper motors, and I also had to make new standoffs as well. So I actually 3D printed these out of ABS. This is the black part, and also with these motors is I've got these little end caps that had a connector that you could wire up, and that just makes the wires a lot neater and keeps everything nice and tidy. Yeah, so I did need to make new standoffs, as these were a little bit needed to be a little bit higher than the original ones with the machines. I got that idea, basically I copied what came with the machine. They were just a black injection mold and molded plastic, and they looked exactly the same as that, so I just copied it. This photo is of the front of the electronics box. Believe it or not, this was a pretty hard box to track down that was going to be big enough for me to fit everything in. I managed to keep the e-stop from the original electronics box, put a new mains and spindle switch on there. Then over on the right we've got, down the bottom we've got the speed control for the spindle, and up top is a place where I plug in my Ethernet cable to the computer. The back of the electronics box is pretty self-explanatory really. I've got a Gecko 540 driver here. You can see the ribbon cable coming out from inside of the box to plug into the parallel port. On the right hand side is just the power that goes in, and then the two microphone plugs. The top one is a 5-pin, and that's for the limit switches. The bottom one is for the spindle. Next photo, we're looking at inside the electronics box, viewing it from the back. So that's inside it, the back there. On the left, you've got the original power socket, AC power socket that come with it. I didn't replace that because there was nothing wrong with it. On the left also, underneath that, is a new power supply, 24 volt power supply I had to replace because the old one again failed. Beside that is a smaller DC power supply that just then takes the AC current down to 5 volts, which is what the smooth stepper needs, because it needs a regulated 5 volt supply. At the back there on the right is the Gecko 540, and on the back is just a little PCB board that I made just to cool the back of the Gecko drive. Below it is the smooth stepper, the Ethernet smooth stepper, sorry, and the black cable coming out of that. That's just the that just routes the Ethernet from the smooth stepper to the front. Again, that's that little board that I made here to cool the Gecko drive. So it's just got two 12 volt fans there, and I've just put a 24 volt to 12 volt regulator there, a few caps, just a couple of connectors, and a PCB board. Pretty easy to make. You can buy a commercial board of this called the Gecko Chiller that a company does sell, but they didn't have any in stock when I bought it, so I just decided to make my own. And again, you can see the smooth stepper there and the ribbon cable going out to the back. This next photo shows the from inside, looking at the front of the electronics box, and you can see that probably the only thing I really did keep was the controller for the spindle speed control. That seems to be working fine. That's probably the only decent sort of electronics in it, really. And you can see the front of that cable that goes back to this smooth stepper that allows me to plug the Ethernet cable into the front. The original e-stop button as well, and the power supplies there. Little clip showing the machine homing. So it homes the Z-axis first, then it'll home the Y, and you can see shortly the Y will hit the front of the machine and then reverse slowly off the limit switches. Then it'll home the X-axis and move off the limit switches as well, and then there it is home. Well, there you have it, the 3040 Chinese CNC machine, my very own. Thank